Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Scale Up Mastermind. This is our monthly opportunity where we put expert speakers on different business topics that are relevant to businesses in Washington State, and with the hopes of providing you something tangible that you can take back to your business and utilize going forward. Today I have with us one of those resources, right? The Washington Procurement Technical Assistance Center. Now, if you're not familiar with Ptac, Ptac is an essential for those that want to do business with government. It's a free resource that provides you with a counselor who has years experience doing contract work with the government, not only to identify potential buyers, but to identify how to successfully win contracts and also how to best position yourself to succeed in those contracts. So today with me, I have Jeannet Santiago. She has been a business counselor, business advisor for many years, but for the past 7, she's worked specifically with Washington Ptac. And she is going to be telling us today a little bit more about government contracting, some of the ins and outs, and in her words, the good, the bad, and the ugly of government contracting. So without further ado, Jeannet Santiago.
Thank you. Thank you, James. I am going to share my screen and let me know if you see that.
And there we go.
Okay, great. All right. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. Maybe some of you guys already attended a fundamental kind of course of Ptac, but I thought this would be fun, a little bit different on how the government works. And so thank you for inviting again, James, for this session. Just to reiterate, my name is Jeannet Santiago. I'm with Washington Ptac. I'm a procurement specialist. And today we will cover the pros and cons of government contracting and make you see if you haven't worked with the government before, is it a good idea to work as a government contractor? You can weigh the options. So, all right, okay, perfect. I think that, are you seeing Washington Ptac Vancouver? Because my screen, okay, yep, perfect.
We've got perfect.
You. Okay, so before I start with the pros and cons, I'd like to first talk about, I'll give you a little bit overview on Ptac for those who don't know what Ptac is, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, just like James said. We are a nationwide organization. There's approximately 93 centers across the United States, and I believe over 400 counselors. So they should be a Ptac in every state, in every county. But this organization was started back in the mid-'80s by Congress, and it allocated funds through the Department of Defense to provide free services to assist small businesses to be competitive in the government marketplace. And I do want to emphasize free, because people think that that it's, at the end we're going to charge them. No, it is a free service. We are not volunteers. We do get paid to do this. So, and I tell people, you already pay with your tax dollars, so that's why it's free. All right, so this is shows you how Washington County is divided. We have 8 centers. I am in section 3, which is the southwest part of Washington. I cover Skalmania, Clark, and Cowitz. I think everybody is in the state of Washington, but if you are not, there's a link down there. It's ptac-us.org. If you are outside of Washington State, you can find the nearest Ptac close to you. Maybe your company has multiple locations across the country, so that you can find the Ptac is closest to that department if they need assistance. Okay, So Ptac assists businesses in selling not only to the federal government, but state and local agencies. We do this by assisting businesses in 1, finding opportunities to bid, and 2, interpreting and solicitations and regulations, and there are so many. 3 would be certifications, registration, such as sam.gov, and any social and economic certifications. I know that I believe it was one of you guys did mention you're a woman-owned, certified woman-owned business. We do assist clients in any certifications that you could qualify for. Marketing to the government, and we do this through one-on-one sessions, matchmaking events, training in person and online. And then we do have this, this electronic bid match. It's a database that consists of opportunities from the cities, counties, states, and federal government agencies across the US. And it's a convenient way that saves times in searching for opportunities. So it's very affordable at $165 a year. We tell people to start. You can try it for 30 days. If it works, great. If it doesn't, that's fine. We as Ptac can help you with your profile. Make sure that you have the right codes, the right keywords in your profile in order for you to receive the opportunities that match your core competencies. Okay, but that's the only thing that that Ptac does charge, because it's through a third party. Okay, so the good. So one of the biggest selling points for government contracting, it's that it's a billion-dollar industry, right? So in fiscal year 2020, during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic, the federal government posted a record-breaking $682 billion worth of awarded contracts. This is a significant jump from the 2019 of like $599 billion. All right, so the good. There's so much good besides that there's a lot of money in there. So the benefits and the good of government contracting is that the government is the largest customer in the world, right? The government contracts are tremendous financial opportunity for small businesses. And they buy all types of products and services, both to large and small quantities. And they also require by law to consider buying from small businesses. They're good compensation and timely payments, but there's an added to that. There should be an asterisk to that, because it is timely if you invoice correctly. Long contracts and stability so it can be a stable type of income for a growing company. So businesses that are social, economic, that can qualify for those social economic certifications can take advantage of their set-asides. So the government does want to buy from small business for several reasons. To support small business as the economic development and job creation. They also gain access to new ideas the small businesses provide. And they also offer opportunities for disadvantaged and socioeconomic groups, which the federal government does have goals for those types of groups. And most of the time, I would say most of the time, they are very transparent because of the documentations is public knowledge. And what I'm saying is that when I talk to clients, it's make sure that to check their forecasting of that particular agency, because they do post what they plan to buy for that fiscal year to come. And as you can tell, I did miss to mention that I am focusing more on federal, because there's so much, each county and state, they work a little bit different. And there's so many variations for the purpose. We can ask, you can ask at the end, but I'm just sticking to the federal type of the good, the bad, and the ugly. But this also can apply to local and state. All right. So the bad. The opportunity to earn high margin profits becoming a government contractor seems like an attractive option to a growing business, no matter what industry you may belong to. But with great profit comes great responsibility and requirements. So now we go to the bad. All right, so the restrictions and regulation requirements. The federal government has tons of rules and regulation. Every federal contractor is required to follow the FAR, which is the Federal Acquisition Regulations, and other, it's the CFAR, which is the Code of Federal Regulations, and they vary on other labor standards. So there's also limitations to subcontracting that a contractor does need to consider. So according to the SBA, I did pick this up from their site, regulations dealing with government contracting programs for small business are go under the Title FAR, Title Part 13, Part 125. The government purchasing process is governed by the FAR, which is the Federal Acquisition Regulation, and some government agencies are authorized to own some government agencies are authorized to have their own supplement to the FAR. And if you're getting into it, every agency has their own regulations that are supplements to the FAR, which is the Federal Acquisition Regulation. Like the Department of Defense has a DFAR and so forth. So depending on the agency, your Ptac counselor can help you identify what those regulations, what that agency goes by. So there's a lot of red tapes, rules, regulations, registration, and paperwork. It requires a lot of paperwork to apply to work as a federal contractor, and somebody had mentioned it earlier. To operate with the government, you must have certain credentials and codes. Just the process of bidding to the government requires you to register with SAM, which some of you might know, SAM, which stands for System Award Management. It's a system that you would need to register if you want to get paid or bid for a federal contract. Also, what I've noticed is that a lot of companies or organizations that go for federal grants also have to be registered with SAM. Okay, so you go through the hoops of getting to get paid. The fact that you're dealing with the government entity usually means that you be assured payment, but there's a process to it. And if you don't, and one of them would be obviously to register with SAM, to have an active SAM registration, because you do have to update it on a yearly basis. Make sure you have your cage code. Properly submit the invoice through the portal that the agency has called out in their contract. And a lot of people do miss that. They don't read the contract, and they call us and say, how do we get paid? And it says in your contract. And so I'm not sure if some of them, you guys are familiar with PI and WAF, WAFF. I have to write that down, sorry, WAWF, that's what it is, for WAF. I know I can't stand these acronyms, but that's what the government uses. And so if you don't use the proper portals and the proper codes in order to invoice, you don't get paid. So do you get paid? Yes, but you have to invoice properly. So typical payments are within 30 days, and sometimes for construction work is sooner, but depending on the terms of the contract, it could be like 60, 90 days before you get paid. So we ask clients to make sure that they do have a cash flow that can support their payroll, especially to make sure that because you won't get paid until 60 or possibly 90 days. And if you're not prepared, that can definitely break a company. And there is an extensive learning curve. So owning a business is obviously challenging. You have to learn about how to run your business, how to handle your payroll, how to handle your employees, and so forth. And so government contracting is just another added layer to all of that. And it can be costly because if it's not done right, it can cost you, obviously, like, you don't know you're going to get paid until later. And so that can be costly to a small business that really depends on that flow of income. Let's see, learning the industry regulations, the procurement process, tons of paperwork. And like I mentioned before, acronyms. I myself, I'm not a big fan of acronyms, but that's things that you have to learn. And like to every industry has their lingo. So I wish I could tell you that there's one simple process, one site that all a government uses, but it's not, it doesn't happen that way. So every agency, unfortunately, works a little bit different, and they use different systems. And that's just what you have to learn as you go through that process. The risk can be devastating to a business owner. And like I said, and so I have some statistics here from the SBA that, says, that they don't meet if you guys don't meet the contract obligations, failure to deliver on time, failure to the process of risk of performance. And so if you don't perform or you don't deliver when you said you were going to deliver, it can ban you from receiving a future contract. It would be public knowledge, and so that you did not deliver on your contract. Some attorneys say it can be jail time, depending. I haven't seen it personally, but I have seen fines, and I have seen people or companies I've seen agencies hold millions and millions of dollars of bond on a company because they didn't perform. So therefore, they're not able to go after another contract. So just make sure you know what you're dealing with. Now, some people say, well, what's the difference between bad and ugly, right? Well, not all agencies work the same, and it's really critical to know and learn and research what requirements you need to work with them and the specific agency. So I'm not sure if anybody has seen the movie War Dogs. Anybody? Any hands? I don't know, can this one show hands? But we can talk about it, but that's not how you do government contracting. That's one of the ugly parts of government contracting. So if you haven't seen War Dogs, I would recommend it. It's kind of an old movie, but just it's funny to watch it. But so the ugly, government and industry often have a communication problem. I'm not just saying this, but I took this from one of the top respected government contracting attorneys, Stephen Coprince, and he says, most people, both in government and industry, are honest and well-meaning, but government and industry don't always communicate well. A lack of good communication can lead people on both sides to believe the worst of each other. So on the industry side, it's unfortunately common to believe that many, even most, government acquisitions officials are biased, often in favor of the incumbent or otherwise dishonest. The vast majority of government officials are not biased or dishonest. And the vast majority of contractors are honest too, and trying to their best to comply with the rules. So there's a great article that he writes. It's called 5 Things I've Learned as Government Contractor Lawyer. And I'm just, paraphrasing some of what he said in that article, but I would recommend, he does have a website called Small GovCon, and I can put it in the chat later. Him and other attorneys have great articles, great information, all of the up-to-date on federal contracting. So just to let you know. And he also, I'm paraphrasing here, but he says in his experience, the most government contracting officials have never owned a business and served an officer as one. So this can lead to a significant lack of understanding when it comes to dealing with a commercial business. So sometimes, because most contractors have not owned a business, they don't understand how it is for all of you. So that can cause some lack of communication. And so I would recommend to connect with Small GovCon and just read up on that article. It's a great article. Slow processes take time, and they don't move. Government doesn't move fast. They don't want, not that they don't want to, that's just their process. They, as in COs or KOs, they have to go through processes and just like, I believe, was it John that said it? He goes, no, they have to wait. They have to wait for the paperwork. And sometimes that causes bottlenecks. And so that can, prolong you in starting a project or a task. Constant change of regulations and processes. Because there's constant changes, you as a contractor will need to stay on top of that. Companies can also comply with the Code of Federal Regulations and a variety of other laws. And so, because there's always changes, and I know that, well, you know that Ptac, so that's what Ptacs, I think, are what we do best, is informing the clients on what regulations have been changing, what regulations that affect their business, if you reach out to us. So the other thing is you need to read a lot. There's a lot of reading into this. You have to read the solicitation, you have to read the amendments, you have to read the, the shalls, the must, the requirements. You have to, once you get the solicitation, and then if you get awarded, then you have to read the contracts. You have to read all of the regulations that they call out, because they're not going to put it in their contract. You just have to read them and look them up. So as a business, I recommend that not only in federal government contracting, but especially in this world, for businesses to keep track and document. So the government can audit in a company anytime. So documentation is key. And the investment time, there is investment times. Preparing for a bid requires paperwork, registration, specific forms, licensing, insurance, business structure, contract agreement. If going through this process is and it's time consuming, and it can, if you don't get the contract, I suggest to always ask for a debrief. And if you don't know what debrief is, basically talking to the contracting officer and asking them, what, and we as Ptacers can help you prepare for those meetings, but ask, how were you evaluated, or what did you, why you didn't get the bid or the contract. And you can learn a lot by a debrief. And if you take that construction criticism and apply it to a future solicitation or proposal, then that's how you get better at it. Okay. So how to approach the bad and the ugly. You know what, that you don't have to do this alone. That's what I tell my clients. You don't have to do this. Please reach out to your Ptac office if you have not. If you have, people just for some reason, I have clients that reach me for some reason for just say the SAM registration. Great, but they forget that we're there for them when they get the contract, before they get the contract, after they get the contract, if they have invoice issues, and so forth. So from A to Z, we're there for you. Okay, we can help you mitigate, interpret, assist in dealing with the bad and the ugly. One of the things that I love about what I do is that I help clients mitigate or reduce their risk for themselves and also for the agency. So we're there to make sure that we put out, show you all the possible red flags. You're going to do what you're going to do as a business, but we need to tell you, this is a red flag. This is what you should look out for. This is, what we've seen. And sometimes that can save a business and, and a future costly mistake. So to be clear, government contracting is a process. I have clients that think that they meet with me once and they're going to go out there and be ready to go for government contracting. I wish it was that easy, but it's not. It is a process. And we recommend to build a, before government contracting, because we do get this. I just started my business. I want to work with the government. Great. Once in a while, we do get a unicorn. Start our business that does get a contract, but it's a unicorn. So we recommend to build your commercial market, create a cash flow in your business, work with local and state agencies first and do subcontracting before you try to be a prime, whether it be local or state prime or federal prime awardee. So that's kind of what we say. Those are the steps in getting those federal prime contract awards. So what's the next step? Become a Ptac client. It's easy. Go to our website, washingtonptac.org. Save our website into, if you don't become a Ptac client, save our website to one of your, to your browser, because we have resources, information, we have subcontracted opportunities that come out through there. Sign up for the newsletter. You can do that directly here in the website without being a client. But of course, I do recommend that you do speak to someone. It doesn't cost anything. And sometimes if you're a small team, it does help to have us as part of your procurement team as well. You can do two ways. You can click that button on top. It says become a client, and it goes to our general office, which is our headquarter office in Thurston County, and then they will assign a counselor to you. Or if you go to if you scroll down on our website, you'll see that green Washington map, and the blue buttons is to the center. And so find your local center, your local blue dot there, where the counties that that the center covers, and click there and sign up to be a client. It takes only a few minutes, and like I said, it doesn't cost anything. So this is my contact information. Feel free to, if you're not in my area, you want to have some questions, I'm more than happy to answer some questions for you. I can direct you to the counselor that is closest to you. And yeah, I see that there's some questions. I'll stop sharing. Should I stop sharing? Yeah, you're gonna pass this on, right, James?
Yeah, go ahead and just stop sharing. It's gonna be posted on,
okay, perfect.
on YouTube.
All right.
So if you want to go ahead and I dropped the J off of there. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes.
You enter in the rest of your information here.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim, for posting that. Yes, that's the Small GovCon article. But yeah, thank you, Kim.
So now is, and thank you so much, Jeanette, for your presentation. Now is one of the most exciting parts of Scale Up Mastermind, where we open up the floor to what you're currently working on, potential things hurdles that you've been running into in your business, or things that you may see as a pitfall or obstacle for you to jump into government contracting. We want to give you the freedom to address that now while we have Jeanette on the line. So feel free to unmute, come on camera, and let's have a discussion. Let's kind of have a pure roundtable discussion on this matter.
Yeah, and I just want to, when I was creating this presentation, I didn't want to scare you guys off about government contracting. It's not as scary. It does help to have someone guide you through it. And I think that's the whole point. Make sure that you're not doing this alone. Don't think that you should be doing it alone. So
for what it's worth, Ptac has been a tremendous resource even for the Scale Up program, because we are also government contractors, right? And so we have to abide certain procurement policies, and the advanced planning of the program allowed us to properly secure our subcontractors and not fall into one of those pitfalls where you have added requirements that you've got to figure out later down the road. So I see, Seth, that you've taken yourself off mute, and also Pramod. Let's go ahead and get Seth first, and then we'll go over to Pramod.
Oh yeah, thank you. The question that I have really, this may sound redundant. I have tried to register my business through the SAM platform. And to be honest, one needs a vacation to get this done. It's very annoying. You have to go through DNB, you have to go through all these hoops, and then you get to SAM. It seems like it changes all the time.
Right.
So my question is really, are you guys looking to streamline this through Ptac so that, it is kind of a smooth and, not too many steps that one has to go through? Most recently, I spoke to my local Ptac person. They wanted me to have a conversation with someone to score, because apparently they will be better suited for my situation than, so that's kind of confusing. I was hoping you can address that.
Yeah. So just to be clear, we are not linked. I mean, we are funded through Department of Defense, but we're not linked in the sense of have access to the system SAM on the back end, right? So we are listed in sam.gov as a resource. We do assist the clients in registering with SAM. So if you can just get your Ptac person to even screen share on Zoom, I do this all the time with my client, and take them through that process, and they can see your screen as you're going along. The SAM process does take about 2 hours to do it right, because you do have to do through some reading, and we can tell you, okay, this is what it says or what they're trying to say, and you decide to answer yes or no and so forth. So I tell clients, just save 2 hours, and then we'll go through it through the proper channels. and also developing your SBA profile at the end. SAM did change recently back in April, so no longer will you need a DUNS number to get registered with SAM. For those who are already registered with SAM, you're in there, that's fine. You have a DUNS number, it's okay, but you were assigned a new unique identifying number, UEI number, and you'll be able to find it in once you log in. So, but for the people that haven't and they're new registering with SAM, I would say you don't need to go to Dun & Bradstreet anymore. Everything's done through sam.gov. Now to get the process, you would need your EIN number, you would need your bank information, you need to know when you incorporated your business. So there is some information you do need to collect prior to sitting down and registering with sam.gov. The reason why I'm not sure exactly, Seth, as far as why the Ptac person directed you to SCORE, when I direct clients to SCORE, is because they need more business development support. So as Ptacers, we can only assist clients anything regarding government contracting, including registrations and certifications. Anything beyond that has to do with the private market, then that goes through an SBDC or SCORE or so forth. But we can only be in our box of government contracting. I hope that clarifies a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. It's a new piece of information. I haven't looked at it since March was the last time I attempted to do it. So I'm glad to hear that some change has come forward. So yeah, I will look into it. Thank you.
They're trying to streamline, yet with changes comes, the pains of change. So there is, but go to your Ptac, because we have been having a lot of issues with sam.gov through the process of change.
Thank you.
I do see that it's a benefit, in my opinion, of not having to worry about going through Dun & Bradstreet. Every time that I've had to work with people and tell them, hey, you've got to get a DUNS number, they're just hit with all of these add-on services, and it becomes really confusing. And so to me, I see a lot of benefit to just having the UEI number.
Yes.
But again, that growth process, that's getting there, it'll get better. I'm sure it will, but
yes, eventually. Hoping.
So Pramod.
Yeah. Hi, Janet.
Pramod.
Yeah. So I actually met Janet like 5 years ago at one of the Alliance Northwest event. Since then, I actually learned a lot from Ptac. Thank you. That's actually very helpful. We've been trying a government contract for 5 years now, but we haven't landed to one project because of certain reasons. Like we did like 8 or 10 RFPs, or total of these 5 years. But mainly we have one big client. They take most of our project, but we have an NDA with them that we cannot disclose the name of the client. So most of the time when we add a experience, they ask for the experience. We cannot keep our experience. We have a lot of work from that one client. And we are a 23-year-old company working for that company for like 16, 17 years now. So is there a way to solve that issue somehow?
So is this a company that you have past performance? Is this a private company?
Yes, it's a private company.
It's a private company, and they just don't want you to share that they're they're a customer.
That's right.
So you're trying to share this information, so you probably create a capability statement and show your past performance. You can say that it's a company that you've done XYZ for type of work. You don't have to be specific, but you can see the type of work and call out the work that you've done, because that's not the secret of the work that you do. If they want more information, then I think that you can individually talk to your customer and says, that agency just wants to verify that it's you. But as far as putting it in your capability statement, you can still call out that's the type of work that you've done. But I'm sure they're not your only customer, right?
That's the main customer.
Oh, that's your main customer.
95% of the work come from that one customer.
Well, you need to diversify.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah, we are trying. I mean, we have like now we have another 10%, almost 10% coming from another business. But most of the time they ask for reference. That's when we ding for that one. I mean, we cannot ask them for the reference because that exposes the company name. So they won't provide it. So we won't get the point for the references in the RFP.
Well, I think if we can talk, much depending on the agency, I think it would be more case by case. I mean, I don't know why your customer would be so secretive if one agency just wanted to get their verify information, I guess. Not, but normally it's not like that. But I would focus more on the type of work that you've done for that company X. And diversify your work. I would say start working with local and state agencies because the rules and regulations, they do have them. They're just not as strict as federal. You don't have to go as much red tape and go through hoops as much as with federal agencies. Start in your backyard. Start with agencies around your headquarters. That would be like, hey, we're local, we're down the street. That's just builds up builds up your marketing, right?
That's what we are doing. We are
Yeah.
certified by SCS, certified by King County, and so we get that 10 points or what are the points that gives us. So that's all working.
Yeah. And who's your work? What county are you in?
In King County.
In King County. Yeah, work with your local person there and just kind of figure out maybe details and just specifically on this case. But I would come up with some ideas with them.
But on the plus side, we learned a lot. We are each time we learn new, we became MBE certified, MBE, DB, SCS certified. Now we are getting into AA certification.
Oh wow, AA certification. That's great. Again, there's great certifications, but if you don't market yourself,
that's right.
Then nobody. It really is like, who cares, right? You have to, in a way, not put it in their face because agencies don't want you to just, hey, we're an AA firm, you should hire us. What you should focus on is your value. What is your value that you're providing to the government, right? So focus on the value and then focus on minimizing risk to them. They don't want to work with risky businesses. That's why they don't want to work with, they don't want to be your first customer, right? So.
Yeah, but we have experience. We have 23-year-old company and 16 years.
Yeah.
And now.
So do you have all of your, first of all, have you updated your capability statement?
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, and do you have it focused to the type of agency that so you have to modify it, like a resume, you have to change it up. Do you have all your certifications on your signatures in your emails?
That's we are working on that.
In that websites, you need to market that if you have a GSA schedule, hey, we're a GSA holder. How you make it easy for them to buy? Make it easy for them to buy, okay? And then also, because government, they're people. So what do people do? If they trust you, they'll use you. But they have to know you first. So make yourself known, make sure you're in the proper sites, that you're registered, that you market yourself, that you attend outreach events, that you attend bid even if you're not going to go after them, go to the pre-bid meetings, network. So it's just like business.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jeanette, but you said, I think you touched on something that's tremendously important. Government it's not just this weird organization, it's people that have a job to do. And everybody's looking for uncomplicated interactions. They are looking for the most trustworthy, I'm going to get my part of my job done or your job done. You're going to get your part of your job done, and I don't have to worry about it. All I've got to do is manage the tremendous amount of paperwork that follows it. So if you build trust and you build that confidence that you can, in fact, get this done, and I think, to your point, networking is tremendous there because it shows initiative. It's just like that first job you go, you keep showing up and people start like, okay, well, he's going to show up. It's the same thing. So really, just building up that trust is going to go a long way to being able to get these contracts, because ultimately people that contract, they just want to make their lives easier, and they want their lives to be easier. Right. And not just, not marketing just yourself or network with other agencies, but market to other companies, market to other primes. Primes doesn't have to be huge prime, Lockheed Martin type of companies. They can be just another small company that are getting the awards, and then you can subcontract through them. I've had many clients that they've been in the business so long, and they have they're looking for another business to subcontract with. So then when they step out and they're doing their exit plan as a business, they have a company that's going to take over their contracts, right? Teaming is huge. Some people call it, I'm not saying go to do joint ventures necessarily, but if you do teaming, two companies come together and go after that contract, you have better chances. You have more past performance, not just yours, but the other company. So you can even subcontract, you be the prime and you subcontract to a bigger company. I mean, there's so much, teaming is, I think, my opinion, teaming is the key to getting government contracts.
That's what we are trying to do too. I mean, that's a good thought. We were trying to experiment with different companies.
And it's sometimes you got to get to know them first, right? Because you don't,
Hey, Pramod brought up an interesting point, that he's working with an agency that has an NDA, and he feels like he can't bring them, use them as a reference, but I can't imagine that so many people, and I'm not saying this is the type of agency you're working for, but there's probably a lot of agencies out, the 3-letter agencies, that just don't want you to use you as a reference, right? But they get a lot of different government contract work, and there has to be a process, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeanette, there has to be a process to capture that experience for those types of contractors. So is there something that Pramod can use to be able to convert his NDA work into experience and reference?
So my understanding is that those NDAs are for private companies, not public, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
So like the private company, they don't want to disclose their name,
right?
Because of the
because and so my understanding, James, is that the company, I mean, if it's an agency can't say don't use this because it's public knowledge. I mean, they put everything out, so they can't say don't say that you we're your customer. They have no say. It's public knowledge.
Well, I just misunderstood maybe perhaps what Pramod had put out there earlier.
But what we actually found was we can actually add. Recently, we submitted a RFP at King County, and we were able to add confidential, like put a text in there saying it's confidential, and they give us a certain amount of time to hide that information.
That's true. They do have that, and it's written down. It tells you exact steps how to do that.
How to do that. So that,
Yeah.
that's what we are doing right now. So
Okay.
there is some things which we can do, but it's not. So we took a little bit time to learn that process.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Pramod. I appreciate hearing your experience, and Jeanette for everything you brought to the table on that. I'd like to open it up to any others who have questions for Jeanette right now.
Could I just make a comment as business owner to Pramod? Just something to think about here. As I listen to you, can't do anything about the 16 to 17 year customer because that relationship is established and locked. But as far as all of our customers, I know that it's a common clause in an NDA to say that you can't say who the parties are. Pramod, I always scratch that. I always take it and I line it out and I send it back and I say, you know what? I'm working with the National Science Foundation or the Department of Defense. I need to be able to tell the people I'm working with who I'm working with or who my customers are. I said, as far as I'm concerned, that's what I need to be able to do. And you know what? That's how many I've had rejected. Everyone is accepted striking that paperwork. Okay, all of them. Now, I did have one guy who said that he wanted to give us money, but he didn't want anybody to tell us who he was. And I said, won't do that. You know, if you're going to be a shareholder, we're a C Corp, your name is going to be on there. And he said, okay, well, no, thanks then. And it's like, well, that's just the way it is. We're not, you know, if you're going to buy shares in our company, we simply have too many people we have to tell who owns our company. So that's not happening.
It's amazing.
And I've done it at least a dozen times, maybe, you know, maybe almost 20.
Most of these contracts are templates. Most of the stuff that is put out there is templated, and nobody's, you know, attached or married to non-key issues. And that's just something to keep in mind. I 100% agree with you, John. Scratch it out. If it comes back as a no-go, then yeah, sure. But in the beginning, like, just scratch it out and see what happens. And if it's not, then it plays in your favor.
That's a good point, James. Thank you for bringing that up. That's true. A lot of it, they're taking contract, prior contract, an old contract, and then just making a few changes. So if you see something that does not make sense in a solicitation, call it out. And that's why there's amendments, because somebody called out in a solicitation process that doesn't make sense, or it was unclear. And that's why amendments are formed after. It's hard to do it after it's awarded, but that's why read. It's very, very important. If you don't get it the first time, it's okay, read it over again. But it's very important for you to know exactly what is they're asking for. And if it doesn't make sense or it's unclear, it's okay for you to call it out. And there's times that the COs do give you to ask questions. Watch out for those dates, and do send, and everything's by email, because they're not going to take a call. Email all your questions, and then that's going to be public knowledge. Okay.
And I was just going to say one more thing, Pramod. You might want, I mean, when was the last time you had that NDA conversation with them? 16 years ago? You might want to like say, hey man, you know, we would like to expand our capacity and capability to provide these services to you. And part of that is doing government contracting work. Is it still important, this NDA agreement?
Yeah, I tried that a couple of years ago. They still try to give away with that, but so I'm going to try again. So, but learned a lot of new things, debriefing, this hiding the confidential information that was new for us. So we are very close, one step forward and maybe 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. And but we are learning.
Still progress though, really.
Still progress.
Well, thank you, Pramod. Brandon, I know that you specifically had some questions earlier, and I'm wondering if these addressed them, or if you wanted to chime in with some clarification.
Yeah, he wanted questions about processes. What processes were you had questions about, Brandon?
Well, like I said, I'm not really at a junction where I can ask very intelligent questions. One of the questions that came up during the discussion that I just kind of missed a point upon was that you were mentioning to read a lot, that there's the offers, the bids, etc. Would you be willing to perhaps relist the sorts of things that we need to ensure to read in order to respect the contracts, respect the contractors, make sure that we're like I would be going in with as much information and that I could be?
Yeah, so if you're talking about like a solicitation to go over, there is a process we call, we take clients through, is it bid and no bid? And we kind of go through all requirements of what is required, what they're asking for. And we try to find all the shells. Their shells is basically musts. Must shells are as must and shells as requirements. But people don't know that. They say we shall, that it sounds very like iffy, but it's not. It's like you need to. And so we go through a client and go through all of these requirements and do kind of a checklist. Can you do this? Can you do that? Are you capable of doing X, Y, Z? And if the client says, no, I can't do that, I don't have that, then there's no time for me to put that together by the time this goes out for bidding, then it's okay, well, it's a no-go, right? Don't waste your time in going after that. But it does give you an idea of preparing for. That's why forecasting is key when you're looking to forecasting, when you talk to your Ptac person on projects and get ahead of the game. Because once they come out on sam.gov, it's late. If that's your first time learning about that project, then you're pretty almost late to the game. You're pretty late to the game. So forecasting, knowing ahead of what's coming out before it hits, I suggest for people that are just starting off, look into the sources sought and to the RFIs. Basically, is sources sought is when they're doing their research. Who is out there? Who can solve my problem? And they're seeking out your solution. And they're also seeking out what type of businesses are responding. Is it a women-owned? Is it veterans? Is it a minority-owned? So if they, federal agencies, if they do find, they go through the rule of two. That means if they find two of the same, they can actually make that a set aside for that particular social economic group. So it benefits you. If you're a veteran and you have another veteran buddy or woman-owned veteran business, hey, we should go after this sources sought. Maybe we can make it a veteran-owned business or or minority-owned or women-owned. So it's good to network, team, know who, if you guys don't know who your direct competition or indirect competition in the government marketplace, you should take time and look in the SBA profile, look up your NAICS codes, look up in your area, look who comes up.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it almost sounded like you were talking about, when you were talking about the being prepared and seeing what's coming up, that there's is it the SBI? I don't know what an RFI is. Are those
RFI is
where they're,
yeah, it's for information. So basically there's processes where COs, government or agencies do their research, their market research. One they call is sources sought. And then if you go to sam.gov, you can actually do a filter and seek out all sources sought with types of notices, under types of notices, I believe. So look for sources sought, and all of those are they're doing their market research. It's not a contract. So it's not as complicated to respond to it, but they do line out what you require to do, what type of work or what capabilities you should have. And and then they mostly answer, questions. They want type of information to fill out and then submit. So it's easier to answer, but it still sounds, some of them could be a proposal type. If you get it or you answer, it's not a contract, but I do recommend to seek out those sources to get ahead of the game. This is just another way for then the contracting officers to know you, to know that you exist, that you're out there. And sometimes what you can do, if you respond, you can actually modify that solicitation to fit better your core competencies, if that makes sense. The RFI is a request for information. Again, it's just another way for them to they're seeking out information. And those are mostly on bids or quotes and things like that. So it depends what you're selling to the government.
And I just added a few quick translations of the different acronyms.
There you go.
The RFI, request for
Thank you.
information, RFP, request for proposals, and RFQs, request for quotes, just different stages of the same, acquisition. So it's, it's a multi-layered approach, right? To acquisition, and
that's why it's not an easy process. But once you get to, the game, right? You learn the rules of the game, then you'll be able to play. It gets easier. But just learning the rules is a little hard, just a learning curve.
Well, hey, thank you, Jeanette. Just real quick, anybody have any burning questions before we wrap it up?
I do have one, but I don't know how general it is. Well, in fact, it wouldn't really be general. But
sure.
Jeanette, are you kind of a WAWAF expert? Let me ask
yes, I know how to get into it. I've done it with clients, but some of the technical parts, it depends.
Okay, well, after going through phase one, we were fine. I mean, I figured it out, and the people at PIEE are extremely helpful. I mean, that help desk, they walk you right through it. And so I had no problem. However, the very first invoice that we sent to them, I remember being paid rather late, and I called the help desk and talked to them. And when I talked to the person there, they said, "Oh, you're a small business. Okay, well, let me make a note on that." And then they pay you more promptly. Apparently, instead of the 30 days, it's more like 15. So anyway, I got paid shortly thereafter. And then each invoice I put in, I got paid well within the contractual 30 days and usually less. Now, it's been 9 months or something like that, and we're starting on a phase two. And this first payment just can't come soon enough, as far as I'm concerned, because we're taking out money to pay payroll and to pay for things and get equipment. And
yes,
so that part's a little painful. But I guess my question is really this: since we told them that we were a small business or tiny business before, is that already recorded there so that whoever's doing the approval of the invoice knows that? Or do we have to call up again and say, please make in the notation that we're a small business, we're a tiny business, and if you can expedite, we'd be delighted?
Well, there's just small business. There's no category for, like, on the state side, they have the micro, mini, and things like that. So in federal, it's just small.
Right.
Because you are you've qualified for an SBIR, you're automatically a small business under the SBA guidelines. So they know you're small. You don't have to tell them. It's already known. That's why you're taking advantage of that SBIR, STTR. And congratulations, by the way. Oh, another thing too, the first phase, it's, it's easier, right? They have a smaller pot of money that they gave you. when the pot gets bigger, they require a little bit more. So
Yeah.
document, document, document.
Yeah. By the way, thanks to the Ptac office, I think it was Thurston County, Kate Hoy, and I think it was Angel. I can't remember for sure, but they helped us a little bit in the market research. And so,
An Angel.
yeah, it was Angel. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, they didn't go into a lot of depth, but they gave us enough in terms of sort of global understanding of the market that we could add that information in, because, you know, it's like a 20-page document that you put in.
Yep.
And anyway, it filled in some white space for us, and I think was helpful and timely, and right as we needed it a few days before we hit submit.
Thank you. That's great. Great news.
All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I did want to say thank you so much, Jeanette, for coming and giving us this presentation and staying on for the questions, because I really feel like the questions at the end make it relevant, right? They provide actionable things.
Yeah, and I will put, feel free to email me and put it in the chat, if that's okay. And do you have any questions regarding this session, or if you are working with someone, that's fine, with another Ptacer. I'm more than happy to relay or answer any questions. That's fine. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And for those that can't see the chat, maybe on YouTube, Jeanette Santiago's email address is jsantiago@thurstonedc.com, JSANTIAGO@thurstonedc.com. And her phone number is 503-694-9403. I'd like to go ahead and wrap it up today. The Mastermind is a product of the Thurston EDC, Center for Business and Innovation. You can reach me if you want to reach out for more information about the different resources that we offer at the Thurston EDC. Do share us, right? businessresources.thurstonedc.com. If you know somebody who's been thinking about an idea, maybe they're not established as we are, right? But they've got an idea. They really need somebody to work that out and flesh out the idea. Send them to that website, businessresources.thurstonedc.com, or have them contact me directly at jdavis@thurstonedc.com at 360-464-6051. Additionally, the Scale Up program, if you're an established business, you want to learn how to turn your business into a system of processes that make you money rather than owning your job, scaleupwashington.org. And then if you're a manufacturer and you haven't heard, and you're in Washington, you haven't heard of Impact Washington, a tremendous resource for manufacturers. Again, they offer a ton of consultation about how to improve processes and lean process as well. And that's at impactwashington.org. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I will post this up on our Thurston EDC channel. If you get a chance, I'll send it out in a recap, but if you get a chance, go ahead and subscribe to our Mastermind channel, and let's help get the word out. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you for showing up, and thank you for your thoughtful questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.